Hall of Fame in with the veterans.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hello and welcome from the streets of Long Beach. It is going to be a night where the walls are a lot closer than we're typically used to here on the V8 Vets. Indeed, if you tuned in last week, they were a mile away over at Silverstone. Tonight, however, there will be a fountain, there will be an incredibly tight hairpin, and there's even an aquarium. Although I feel like I might be looking at the stars of tonight's V8 Veterans Vindaloo kitchen. Mez, you're alongside of me yet again here tonight, and the curry references, they just don't stop on a Thursday night.
No, it does not for our Lord Vindaloo. Look, everyone. I wish we could have got that name changed. But anyway, looking forward to this one. We've already had a bit of action with the V8s around Long Beach. Obviously, Scops was here a bit earlier, but yes, now it's the V8 Veterans time to have a crack at it. We'll be zooming down into California. Yeah, looks like we're going to go to California. Just south of Los Angeles at Long Beach. Opened in 1975, hosted many Formula One races, and yes, the walls are close, the hairpin is tight, and this is a track that rewards both patience and bravery.
And let alone that pit lane entry. Actually, just watching Talyancic run in the pit lane as he finishes his qualifying efforts for tonight. Shoreline Drive makes the front straightaway all the way down to Toyota at turn 1. Aquarium Way in and around the fountain. Always going to be chaos down in there on lap number 1. 4, 5 down to 6 and 7. The little kink off the exit of 6 Pine Avenue. Seaside Way will make the back straight, Fireside turn, Indy left, and the hairpin at turn number 11. Don't forget, Scott McLaughlin, in his first year in IndyCar, whacked the inside wall down there at turn 11. Not the outside wall, the inside wall turned in a fraction too early, and that says to me that even the legendary make mistakes, and that's why they let me in the commentary booth. I'm not legendary, but I still make mistakes.
I'm leaving that one alone, but yes. I myself have also discovered that turning in too early doesn't work too well. Turn 8 is also another example of a corner that, yeah, very much easy to pick up the inside wall and ruin your evening. But yeah, 11 turns clockwise. There's really not much more you can say about this track than what you're seeing on screen at the moment. Tight, technical. Yeah, again, you're just going to be patient. Like it's one of those tracks where it's like, the more aggressive that you try and drive it, the less reward you get out of it. You've just got to be smooth and patient with it, and the lap times will come to you. So, you know, if you're sort of used to really getting these things by the scruff of the neck and throwing them around, well, yeah, you're going to have to sort of throw that out the door a little bit tonight.
Mate, we talked about it over the last couple of weeks. Neither of us are good enough to grab these things by the scruff of the neck, and again, more reasons why we'll be sitting on the sidelines. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to bring you championship standings at this point in time. Technical difficulties, we're not actually able to give you an update on exactly how the championship standings sit, but remember, it was that battle between Ken Latta and Michael Talyancic that went into last week's rate from Legacy Silverstone, and what a great race that was from Silverstone. Different tracks, and I was having a chat to a few different people, Mez. More tracks that you haven't seen in a long time. They're going to try and sneak them onto the V8 Supercars schedule so that we can get more tracks like we experienced last week that drivers simply aren't used to. So if you come up with a track that hasn't been used, or drivers may be a little bit unsettled by, that'll be a little bit less likely to have seen, let us know. We'll get those passed on and see if we can get them attached to the V8 Supercars calendar for the next season. Time for the race information here tonight. 150 kilometers. Phew, thank God for that, Maz. Any more than 150 kilometers around the streets around here, and all of us would just be about wore out. 50 liters in terms of fuel, 2 compulsory pit stops. However, you can get home at the end of lap number 8, not far into the race. You can pit on the first available lap, again on lap number 8, and then it's the run to the flag from there.
Yep, a very, very compressed strategy, but yeah, it lands itself to being it's such a short distance, and we've got such a big fuel tank. Yeah, you can see that on there at the moment. So, track positions obviously going to be a big play for this one. If you're out in front, you're not going to be too hustled. Really, you're just going to sort of get into your own rhythm and see how you go from there. We do kind of speak at length about the difficulty of passing generally. When we come to Long Beach, that amplifies itself a lot. There's really only a handful of passing spots that you can really make an overtake. One of those is the hairpin, but we do recommend not to try it. But it's very much going to be if you can get in, get your stop done, get over and done with. Not sure what tyre wear is like. I'd assume it's better to be the same sort of thing, that you don't want to come in too early because you don't want to be sitting on old tyres right towards the end, especially that last corner. Trying to get the power down when you've got no rear tyres is just going to absolutely ruin you by the time you get to turn 1. So probably expect a bit more of a 50-50, but if there's a chance to get out of traffic and get some clean air, I think they might try and take it.
And the big thing, looking at that graph that's on screen at this point in time as well, yes, 32 to 33 seconds for a pit lane transit delta. That's just end-to-end time. Add on to that, in the realm of 35 to 36 seconds across the 2 stops. Any fuel saving you can do, you can shorten off those 2 pit stops. When we have a look at everyone that's gone on from the top end of the field, I actually sat down last week post-race and had a very, very long chat with Mike Kortleff, and he took me through a lot of the intricacies of how the strategies and things evolved. I said to him, look, man, it's no good knowing where we are now and how we've gotten here unless you understand how the evolution of things have gone. And there was, over the years, the fuel strategy never used to become a thing. And then iRacing said, hey, look, fuel, the rate that the fuel burns out of the car is directly proportional to the throttle percentage that you put in. Somebody learned how to fuel save, and there was a race at Road America whereby there was one car that was able to make it the fuel distance, and from then on it's become a fuel game in the V8 Supercars. We've also talked how at Bathurst, in an open setup style of things, very early on, ran a lot of wing. Why? You wanted the speed all the way across the top. It was the best way to create peak lap speed. Somebody figured out that if you trim the ring right off at Bathurst, you can make all your passes down through the fast sections, and then you can hold them off across the top. And now we've seen the evolution in Bathurst setups to being that trimmed out style. As little as you can get away with tends to be the case. It's that evolution in terms of an esport that really governs it. And for me, that's what iRacing's all about.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, though, because we try and crack the code on these things, or at least the top guys try and crack the code on these things very, very quickly. The fact that what are we now, like 2 or 3 seasons in of this car? And people are still discovering ways to make it faster. Yes, it's had a few evolutions along the way, but to find wholesale changes like that to make bulk pace, it's just crazy to think that, there are more than one ways to make a car fast. But again, one of those things. So
I actually got to hear how the first line lockers came about. Did you know that it was actually built to somebody got it built into a pedal set? And they said to the pedal manufacturer, hey, look, we just want this held up by us for a year. We just want a button attached to the side of the brake pedal that locks the pedal in place, a line locker, if you will. And that's how line lockers started. Then they transitioned them over to this is before handbraking was a thing in the sim, and everyone had their handbrakes. Now they use a handbrake in the sim as a line locker. So it's little bits and pieces like that that really add to the culture of it. And we've also seen it's all about tire heat. So we talk about tire heat. Well, we'll talk about that, I think, at length here tonight as well. But when they're doing their qualifying laps. It's a very, very slow out lap. You've got to minimize the tire heat, Mez, and that's why I suck in these cars. Cannot minimize tire heat. I spin wheels everywhere.
I'd do the same thing. Anyway,
on with the gridding. On with the gridding. Dan Yeaman behind the scenes is telling us, hey guys, we've got to get through with the gridding. So we're going to jump to our grid here. And in terms of the front row and what's capable off of that front row, it is going to be Ken Latta and Michael Taliangic, your two championship hopefuls and the strongest for that fight at the front end of the field. Only going to be a bit over a tenth of a second in it at the front end. It's going to be next to nothing further back, not even a tenth back to Darren Lobb, but for him there will be a little bit of a wider gap to Blake Delaney, who we finally saw show what he's capable of last week from Silverstone. On row number 3, it's going to be Brice Tannock and Chris Miller, two drivers that are perhaps having their best night of the season on a night we do need to qualify well here at Long Beach. They've done well enough for the third row of the grid. On the fourth row of the grid, it's going to be Dan Hall and Peter van der Kram. We're starting to see that return to form from Dan Hall, and for Peter van der Kram, well, no, that's not Matt van der Kram, as Simon Mazzoma will confirm in a few moments. That is Peter van der Kram inside the top 10. Phenomenal qualifying effort for him. Chad Vigor and Dave Kirby will round off row number 5, and then we'll move a little bit further back where we'll get into Travis Hunt and Jason Fewens. So it's going to be another row of the Zoom feed. Off of row number 6 for 13th and 14th, it is going to be Paul Burns and Greg Sharp. And in behind them will be Jeff Thomas and Scotty Van Loon. Van Loon with one of his best qualifying performances thus far this season in 16th. 17th and 18th, Matt van der Kram did not get his qualifying effort well done thus far this evening. He'll be off alongside of Steve Grumley. Chris Barouge off alongside of Stephen Banks for your top 20, Mez.
And we'll fire through the rest of them. So Steve Max in P20, David Nash in P21. P22 will be Scotty McCune. P23 will be Todd Duggan, alongside will be Darren Crosby. We'll move back another row, be Steve Kennedy coming out of 25th with Stewie Hall alongside in 26th. Chad Lewis will be starting out at 27th with Jamie McKnight alongside in 28th. Robbie Griffiths will start behind in 29th spot. Troy Stone Street will be starting out at P30. P31 will be Dean Flavell. 32nd alongside will be Darren Goosey, and then we'll go across to 33 will be Tim Nicol with Robert Christel alongside. Damien Cairns in 35th. John Latham, winner of the round last year, starting out of 36th, and two non-qualifiers, Simon Heddershot and Brenton O'Brien, rounding out the back of the grid.
Brenton O'Brien will not be happy with that one. That's another race who'll be starting deep in the pack and looking to try and escape from the clutches.
And okay, we seem to have lost Scott somehow. So yes, we'll try and bring you the start of this one. We've got 30 seconds left until we start to see the green lights.
15 seconds.
Oh, he's back.
Yep. I've just had a network drop out and drop back in. So, yep. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we are onto the grid and moments away from getting those green lights. So get yourselves set for another hot race from the streets of Long Beach. 48 laps, 151 kilometers, 2 compulsory pit stops, 35 or so seconds required to stop to make the race to the end. Make it to the end of the race in terms of pits across the 2 stops that you'll have to do. Who will be able to make it? At second stop can literally be a splash and go if you come down any time after lap number 8. And it is green flag in the air, and it looked like it might have been Taliangic. You got a better run away from the outside of row number 1. It'll be the long run down towards turn number 1, and indeed it is Taliangic. He's got that nose ahead, but here comes Darren Lobb to the inside. He'll try and get himself as far alongside up there as he possibly can. He'll settle in. It's going to be then Delaney who will drop further back into the pack as well. There's a huge check up, and I think we're going to get that first safety car very early on. And is that my eyes, or is that Peter van der Kram? It is indeed Peter van der Kram involved.
Yep, and that is completely blocked the track. There is no way anyone's getting through that one. As you can see, everyone just trying to sort of get themselves out of there. Race control seems to be letting this one run for now. We haven't heard the call for a safety car, but there's a lot of damaged cars back there. But so far, it's clean running for Michael Talianchis out in front at the moment. Darren Lobb will be coming up a couple of spots in a second. So Ken Latta dropping down from pole down to P3, but as long as he sticks to this main group, he should be fine. Bruce Tannick sitting up in 4th spot at the moment. So a few movers through the field as they head down, and now they get to the hairpin for the first time. Very hard. Right-hander, you see the field, this is where they're all going to compress now. People that might be keen on the move might try and go to the inside, but it's very hard to make happen. You can see him funneling through single file. No one looking for a move as yet as they come across the line. Now they've just got 47 more laps to go.
Yeah, it's going to be a long distance here tonight. They're going to be working hard on those.
Oh.
Beating into that wall quite heavily. It wasn't Chris Miller who's just ahead of it. It is Blake Delaney. It was a long, long way wide. And if there was one driver I was expecting to be on the fuel saving early, it's generally going to be Blake Delaney in the 008 entry. But unfortunately for him, it's going to be heavy wall contact. At least it was a tyre barrier, but already struggling and already way off the back of Bruce Tannick. This will tell the story. Is there a lot of fuel saving going on? No, maybe not necessarily. The car just never pitches in at turn 1.
Yeah, it's so easy to do, especially into turn 1, just with the way the corner is, and especially if you're stuck behind the car in front of you, very easy to sort of misjudge it. But the interesting thing I will note is there's no actual damage on the car, so you must have just grazed that wall. If you can hit the wall side on without any lock or anything, any input, it won't actually damage the car. You'll actually be able to get away with it. So if he's opened up the wheel or straightened the wheel just in time to not sort of cause an impact, he's got away with it. But yeah, it just very, very, very lucky you don't want to be doing that on the opening sort of couple of laps. That just sort of ruins your afternoon. But you can see a few cars diving into pit lane. Looks like it was Greg Sharp.
Oh, there's a huge incident, and you're not going to believe who's involved in it. Go on, have a guess. Any guess?
Your best mate?
Yeah, you bet. It's Scott McCune. He's heavy.
Oh, that's a lot of damage.
And everyone has managed to keep cracking. So either way, get the feeling he's going to be making his way to pit lane. No, he's going to continue on. So the difficulty now is going to be, there's a couple difficulties, and the biggest one that comes to mind is, for my liking, those guys are now out. They can't make a pit stop, man. If they make a pit stop, they'll be coming down out a lap now.
Yeah, exactly. The pit lane, as I said earlier, the pit lane's quite long, especially the position that they're in at the moment. They'll easily go down a lap. Have a look on replay at the moment. Was having a bit of a look by, I think. He just swings it in and, oh no, tripped up by the car in front. I'm not sure who that was, Stephen Grumley. So Grumley's grabbed the ball on the outside. It's going to be cute, just really had nowhere to go and just secondary contact. And now, as they've got going again, is there... oh, that's it. That's all there is there. Cool. No worries. But yeah, you can see a lot of damage to this car behind at the moment. Can't quite catch who that is, but yeah, a lot. Paul Burns, yes. So a lot of damage to that car.
Two cars, Maz, have already come in for their first compulsory stop. One of them is Greg Sharp. The other one is Peter Vanderkron. Guess where they've popped out? Right in front of the race leader for Peter Vanderkron. He is in big, big trouble. And this was after starting inside the top 10. He had a great opportunity tonight. And unfortunately for Peter, that's no longer possible.
Yeah. This will be, now you'll be hoping for a safety car if you're in Peter's position. Might be able to try and hold the gap, but obviously we've seen Taliancic sort of has been a bit of the standard of the field this season so far, so probably won't be long before he's going to be getting the blue flags. But yeah, at this point you just got to stay out. If a safety car is called, you've just got to stay out and wait until you can get your lap back, hope that the leaders and all that pit, and then try and get your lap back that way. So this would be a very, very long stint, I would imagine, for Peter. It's probably the only way you're going to make this work, and then yeah, just hope for a safety car to come out at some point, try and get you back on strategy, because yeah, it's just very hard to do it from here.
We're just keeping half an eye on Paul Burns, and that's that car that's in the pit lane at this point in time. Is now one lap down. Steve Grumley is the other car with him that's already gone one lap down. He's going to have to rejoin right in amongst his lead pack. Does he feed in? There's really nowhere for him to feed in, and now he's going to hold them up at turn 1. He's got nowhere to go. He's coming out of the pit lane. He's got to feed in. It's a tricky decision to make where to feed in. And Steve Grumley will have the same poor decision coming his way as well. He's fed in just ahead of P14 at this point in time, which is Todd Duggan. So racing at Long Beach, the walls tend to come into play very early on. They didn't come into play on lap 1, and they've continued to come into play thus far.
Yeah, and you can see there a little bit of a rub on the wall there. Sometimes it will do that. You'll see a puff of smoke sort of come up. It won't necessarily mean that they've hit the wall. It just means they've come very, very, very close, and iRacing thinks that they've actually touched the wall. So no need to sort of panic as much. But yeah, they'll be using every little bit, every inch of it, trying to open up the corners as much as they possibly can. You can see on here with Chad. Dan Hall at the moment running in P7, and we'll even get a little bit of an onboard as well heading down the front straight. It's a nice sweeping right-hander, and then you've got a side up the run into turn 1. You can use a little bit of the pit exit lane. You'll see him just run the right wheel over it, make sure to turn in, grab that inside curb and just open the corner right up. This is the tricky bit, trying to be able to slow it up. Can use a bit of that inside curb, but generally most people stay off it. And now through this section, it's a bit bumpy. There it is, for a perfect example. And then over the top of these curbs, that whole section is just so bumpy, and the car is so unloaded. You're just going to be very, very, very careful with the throttle. Be very precise with the inputs. And then this guy, yeah, as tight as you can. Try and use as much of that. Try as close as you can to the inside curb. Getting the throttle on there, quite difficult. Again, the car is so unloaded, so trying to get the power down is quite difficult. And now we've got this long run down the back straight, heading up towards turn 9. As we saw before, this could be a bit tricky for some people if they let the car run too wide. You just want to grab the inside curb like he's done there. Beautiful. And now here, slow it up and just hug it as tight as you can. If you go in a little bit too hard, the car will understeer and just wash out. It makes getting into turn 10, that final hairpin, sorry, turn 11, that final hairpin, very difficult. And then as you can see, come off the final corner. One hand on the wheel. He's making this look very easy at the moment.
And unfortunately, that track map that's on his dash, that's not for Long Beach, that's for Bathurst. So that doesn't work all that well. But hey, you know, you got to celebrate bits and pieces about car culture any way you possibly can. The only problem I have with this place is, well, yes, the suburb is called Long Beach. The racetrack shouldn't be called Long Beach. It should be called Long Wall. Would make a lot more sense.
No. I see what you're going for. But no.
Well, I mean, if they added a gravel trap somewhere, potentially a long one, then go nuts. They can call it the Long Beach. The Long Beach at Long Beach.
There really is a Long Beach not far from where the track is.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
That's why it's called Long Beach.
I'm aware of that, but from a racing perspective, add a little bit of each to it.
What? No. We're not going to sit here and debate track names with you tonight. It's called Long Beach. We'll leave it at that. Moving on.
You just wait until we get on to Spa. There should be a Spa there, and I should be invited to enjoy resting at the Spa. But anyway.
Racing at Spa is a Spa.
Road America is aptly named because there is a road and it is in America, so you can keep that one.
Yes. Anyway. Talianchich at the moment on screen. Interesting. I would have. That's what they lead pack, so we can just see they all stick together on track at the moment. They have pushed a little bit of a gap out for Bruce Tannock, but yeah, this pack at the moment just seems to, the top three just seems to be stuck together and aren't seem to go anywhere. The lap times are all pushing in roughly about the same. Ken Ladder actually started to pick it up on that last up, was about a 10th quicker than that leading pack, but yeah, they all seem to be going with each other at the moment, so it's working out good for the top three. They can sort of set their own pace and have a comfy gap to the guys behind, but Bruce Tannock doing an amazing job in P4. We've mentioned numerous times this season, just flies under the radar, you know, picks up the results right at the end, picks up the results, you know, when everyone else is doing everything else on track, and making some solid points. So yeah, good to see him, good qualifying, which has helped him out, and then yeah, just a good start to the race has popped him out in P4.
Yeah, and it's about getting your head down and doing all you need to do. We're now on lap number 8 for our leader, so that means the compulsory pit stop window is open to get to the end of the race, and this will be probably one of the most interesting races of the season in terms of that compulsory pit stop window, because, well, it's open, which means if you take the entirety of your pit stop right now, that's it. You still have to come back down and literally stop in the box, go up in the jack, come down off the jacks. So I'm wondering whether or not there'll be a few people who won't take the full splash of fuel at this point in time. So keep half an eye out for that one. In the meantime, Damien Cairns has been to the lane, and it is actually a lap down at this point in time. He's looking at the rear bumper of Blake Delaney and staying with him, albeit Blake Delaney is sitting 5th on the track at this point in time. So the benefit for Damien Cairns is, yes, he's got in, yes, he's got fresh rubber, but right now he's basically held up by guys with 5 laps older tyres than him. Now, if he can match them for speed, and this is actually what his true pace is like, this does work out a treat for him, in that he's not forced to let drivers go, but there's a lot of complications that can happen from here.
Yeah, I think in the situation he's in at the moment, I'd be doing exactly that. Be sitting behind Blake Delaney at the moment, save a little bit of fuel, just get into a nice rhythm. That's all he really needs to do. Like I said, you're in that spot where you've just got to wait for a safety car to happen no matter what. There's no viable alternative to sort of get yourself back into this race. So saving a bit of fuel, keeping out of trouble, matching the pace of the guys in front of you, that's probably the best way that you can sort of try and minimise the damage at the moment. At least it might get you a jump over the sort of the cars behind, that you may be able to get Delaney with a big slide out of turn 1. But yeah, if he's able to sort of, use the pace from the front guys to drag him through the field a little bit, might pick up a few spots once everything washes out in the safety car.
I mean, he's matching pace with the guys he's around, and indeed a number of guys. In the meantime, we'll have a look at a replay of Steve Banks get a little bit wide, and is that going to be down the inside of the final corner? It's a contact with Stephen Banks, and Chris Barrage received a drive-through penalty just a few moments ago, and it was for that one right there.
Yeah, that's a pretty clear example why we sort of say, yes, there is an opportunity to go down the inside there, but generally just don't recommend it. If you're not, yeah, it's just such a hard corner to sort of get around. That just unless you're sort of alongside them really at that point, or unless you're fully alongside them by the time you get to here, basically, you got to give the corner up. If you're not there, there's no point really going for a move there. We have seen it done. We have seen moves done into turn 11, but 9 times out of 10, they generally don't sort of end up working out well.
So the good news we have tonight, Maz, is remember what we talked about before the race started? 35 seconds approximately of static time through the pit stops is what we're looking for at this point in time. So when we look at drivers up and down the field, what we're really looking for their first pit stop is how much of their total static time have they cleared as a part of this pit stop. This strategy worked well for Travis Hunt last week with the undercut. Got in nice and early, grabbed himself a whole bunch of spots, and then he got messed up in a huge tangle with Darren Lobb. That one was debated well into the post-race. I actually got to witness the stewards discussing that one a little bit. We're not happy with how that one was cleared in terms of the redress. So everything we talked about last week about that redress mess, it was discussed and debated, and they double-checked it, dotted their I's and crossed their T's. So they weren't happy with how Darren Lobb redressed the position to Travis Hunt. So that one was discussed and procedures put in place over that one, which is good.
Yep, and that's it. It's one of those things where not only for drivers but race control to learn things from. Like I can tell you now, raced in the real world for 15 years, done I think this on and off for about 6 or 7. Clearly a bit of race control, and there's always something. When you give people enough time to sit here and think about things and try and understand the way procedures work, much like you hear about in real motorsport, where they comb through the rule book and try and find things that give them advantage, sim race is the exact same. Anything that they can do to find an advantage out of it, they will 100% use it. So, as a driver, you're learning to find where those, right up against the wall, Chad Lewis in front at the moment. Just trying to catch who it was. That was
Stewie Hall and John Latham.
Stewie Hall, yep, Stewie Hall in behind. So Stewie Hall got very, very close to that outside wall. Definitely sort of leaning towards having a look going down to turn 1, but just had to let it run a bit too wide, but got away with it, thankfully. We'll jump on board with a replay at the moment with Robbie Griffiths.
This explains a lot. Yeah.
So yeah, this might explain what's happened here. Into the hairpin on the throttle. Just a little bit too much. Oh, Chad's done a very good job at keeping that one off the wall. And it's so easy just to nose it in. And then, yep, we're going to go on board with Stewie Hall. Run down the front straight. And then, yeah, there's a little bit of movement. Yeah, just just scrapes the wall. So lucky to get away with that one. But yeah, that explains why what led up to that one heading into turn 1.
It's important now for us to keep half an eye on who has done their stops and how long they've stopped for. So we said Travis Hunt pit a few laps ago, pit on lap number 10, and we're going to have to keep half an eye on where he pops out at the tail end of things. As more drivers start to come down pit lane, Jason Fewens is going to be one of those that comes to the attention of his pit crew. Just have to see. Just want to see. I'm just going to go back. I think Travis Hunt pit out of 13th place. He was ahead of Fewens. Fewens is going to pit from 19th.
So Jay McKnight also popped into the lane too. So there's Travis Hunt on screen. He'll swing around. Quite a margin actually. Travis Hunt was about a 49-second stop. Fewens, yes, 35 seconds, 36. So yeah, there's still a fair bit longer to go on that one. But yeah, at the moment, very clear leader. David Kirby, Matt Vanderkamp behind for about 5 seconds longer in that pit stop as well. So potentially that's a bit of time that they can give back. Which, yeah, at the moment they're both within 5 seconds at the moment. So yeah, this little battle for the lead. This little lead pack of those that have pitted. Interesting to see how they flow through, and interesting to see what strategy the leaders go for as well, especially Talyancic here. Do they follow the same strategy? Do a half fill, which is about a minute, or yeah, do they do a full fill? So I generally don't know how to call this one, how this strategy is going to work. Most of the time, you've got a sort of general plan of where everyone's going to end up, but yeah, I generally don't know where people are going to go with this one.
I get the feeling that they're just going to split it in half. So that's sort of what they're going to look to do. Keep your eyes deeper in the pack. So for Robert Christdale, all the way down in 35th spot, he's only got about a 3-second stop to do at his second stop. Unfortunately for him, that means for this next run, he's going to be carrying a lot of fuel on board for the current amount of time. So that's sort of what you're going to be thinking about. 20 seconds for Matt Vanderkamp, about 15 seconds to go in terms of pit stops. So that's what we're keeping half an eye on. And for Chrisdale, he's buried in traffic and having issues with internet at the same time, which is not helping.
And leaders have pitted as well. So we've got Talyancic, Delaney, Miller, Vigor, Thomas, Dash and Duggan into the lane. So this will be interesting to see what they do. My question's about to be answered. What sort of strategy we're going to see them go for?
This will be split it into 3, no doubt.
Oh, so yep, Talyancic off the jack, 19-second pit stop, so a little bit longer than what Travis Hunt's stop was. About 3 seconds longer. So yeah, looking like they're going to be splitting this strategy. We'll try and find where Travis Hunt is at the moment, just so we can get a bit of a reference.
Well, critically, Ladder and Lob have continued on, so this could be Talyancic going for the lead. Now, that may force the hand of Ken Ladder, and he may be forced into a shorter stop, which then puts Talyancic in a big advantage late in the race because he'll come in later, put less fuel on boards, and wear those tyres less. So, you know, I think what we're going to just see right now is a little bit of chess and a little bit of chewing and throwing and a little bit of trying to outfox the competitors that you're racing against.
Yeah.
So looking at for a second stop as well, for everyone on their second stop, we're expecting that second stop to be about at least 9 seconds worth. So that says for this first stop, effectively the maximum fuel you're going to be taking on board is going to be around 25, 26 seconds. Any more than that, you're not leaving. You're going to have to stay static for tyres only. There'll be no fuel going into those cars. So that'll be a little bit of guesswork going on with that number as well, Mez. So lots, and remember, there's no crew sitting behind these guys. It's literally the driver, just the driver.
Try to think on your feet that fast. Try and sort of think where these strategies are going, where you can sort of play yourself into it. Try to manage what's going on around you as well. If you're being held up in traffic, if you've got clean air, So Talyancic pops out in front of Ladder. Would have half expected that to happen with Talyancic being on new tyres. But interesting, and it's going to gap him by a fair bit as well. You can see he's sort of just driven off into the distance a little bit, but it'll be interesting to see if Ken Latta can actually start to come back at him a little bit as it progresses. But yeah, a nice comfy lead at the moment for Talyancic.
Interesting. So having a look at the times in the box, 0.3 of a second difference between them. Cannot overstate this, by the way, ladies and gentlemen watching along at home. These drivers, they don't have any assistance. There's no one sitting there going, this is our fuel number, we'll put this amount of fuel in. No, the driver's going to go, I want this much fuel, plug that fuel into the car whenever he's got a moment's worth of notice within the sim. Some of them will do it whilst they're sitting on the grid. They'll have a plan pre in mind, and they'll just set it all up for their first stop so that when they show up at the pit stop, everything's ready to go. No, none of that. So effectively what will be going on here is the drivers have to think about their fuel, they have to think about how much needs to go on the car, they have to think about how long it will take them, am I taking tyres, have I got everything ticked off? At some point in their season, somebody's going to forget to tick a tyre, and they're going to leave a tyre turned off, or something like that's going to happen.
Yeah. There are some tools that can help you. I know for a fact I use JRT, and that can help you calculate some of that stuff. But yeah, you're still having to do a lot of the manual thought process yourself. You're still got to think about when you're doing your stop, when you're going to take tyres, when aren't you going to take tyres. And if it's flowing like this race is, if you've got flowing and you've got safety cars happening and other things that are going on as well, you're still going to be able to calculate that stuff yourself. So yeah, 100%. You can use the tools to help you a little bit, but yeah, if you don't have anyone in your rear that's sort of feeding you all the other information that's going on, yeah, very hard to try and pick up on everything and make those calls yourself.
Yeah, and it's just getting everything right. You cannot get everything right all the time. It's going to happen at some stage. It's just a matter of when and who picks the strategy right. For Darren Lobb, picking the strategy right, well, there is no guesswork. Drive it till it's empty, pull it up, add fuel, add tyres, rinse, repeat is going to be his strategy at the moment as he looks to lead a number of races for DPR. There are only 2 cars thus far that have not come through the lane for their pit stop, and critically, one of them is Brenton O'Brien, who's currently sitting in 5th spot, and he's right in and around Bruce Tanek. So that is going to be an obstacle for Bruce Tanek to navigate. He's only about a second up the road, and this looks to be about the maximum fuel distance, 18 laps. The duration that they can go. So Brenton O'Brien the last couple of weeks has come in early, got himself out of the chain. Not so tonight. Tonight he's going to do the opposite.
Yeah, and interesting enough, just quickly looking at lap times, and there's Darren Lobb into pit lane. That's probably the smart call, get over and done with, but this will give him a little bit of an advantage in tyre life, so you'll be able to try and work that gap back down, try and catch up to the cars in front, but see what he's going to do. The lead is heading through turn 8 at the moment, but interesting enough, looking at lap times at the moment, Ken Latta is actually starting to close that gap up a little bit. Was 0.3 faster than Talyancic that last time around, so
tell you what,
battle for the lead.
Can we go to Bruce Tanek and Brenton O'Brien, because this is getting spicy. Bruce Tanek, by the way, at turn 8, just before they got to the back straight, shoved the nose in and then backed out of it. So he is absolutely being compromised by this one. But it's keep your head, build the run, get down the inside properly. There is not a move on at turn 8. It requires, effectively, you're saying to Brenton O'Brien, you've got to get out of the way. You've effectively got to get out of the way from Bruce Tanek's perspective, is what he's saying to the other driver. And if anything, he's compromised them both down that back straight. All that's done is played Dan Hall a little bit closer into Bruce Tanek. So now he's got that to contest with as well.
Yeah. It's not totally the end of the day, not ideal. You don't really want to be sort of held up in those sort of situations, but yeah, it still doesn't overly change things. We'll hold on to 4th place constantly, but yeah, Dan will be interesting whether or not the pace will be able to sort of have a run at Bruce Tanek. We saw that in the early stint. Bruce sort of comfortably had that gap managed, but yeah, we'll see what happens in the second stint. But yeah, you can see on screen at the moment, Ken Latta is slowly starting to draw up on the back. There was an 18.7 for Ken and a 19 dead for Talyancic, so 2/10 that last time round. And Talyancic with a much shorter pit stop as well, about 4 seconds. So, about 3 seconds. Sorry. So, not a lot of fuel to go in, but 3 seconds. If you can close that gap down and you only have to do 3 seconds less of fuel, that can be a big difference on track. You can see Darren Lobb coming out of the final corner. They're just starting to come across the start-finish line now, heading towards turn 1. So that is a big gap that's appeared, and pit box time's roughly about the same as Ken Ladder, so that time is lost is purely by staying out on old tyres. So the tyres obviously making a big impact at the moment, but we'll wait and see if having newer run bar will play back in.
I'll have to cut you off on that one, Maz, because it's about 3.4 seconds the difference between Darren Lobb and Michael Taliancic. So it's roughly the same to that, to Ken Ladder. So he's lost 3 seconds from that perspective, but he's now got fresher rubber on board, so he's going to be potentially fractionally faster. And he had the gap. He came out ahead of Bruce Tanner, and that was critical. So he's got probably Brendan O'Brien to go to after the race and just be like, thanks, mate. You held him up just a little bit. Created the nice little hole for me to pop back out in. Thank you.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, gap's still out about 7 seconds though, so yeah, 3 seconds additional in the stop time, but there's still about 3 or 4 seconds just in lap time over that, because we saw that Ken Ladder came out of the pits and he was putting out some big numbers straight away. So yeah, Ken really sort of, it's impressive to see how Ken's able to sort of get that car firing up and getting the pace out of it straight away. So yeah, just interesting to see what happens from here. But Dan Hall sticking on the back of Bruce Tannock at the moment. You can see Blake Delaney just in the background as well. The car in front looks to be a lap down as well, so that'll be also something that'll be playing on Bruce's mind a little bit. That's Chris Barrage in front. It's a lap down, so let's see, on board with Dan Hall at the moment as they head into turn 1.
Yep, so heads down at this point in time. Everyone trying to crack on with their race. And for Dan Hall, this is the task that he is faced with. Something happened to John Latham, by the way, as well. He's now gone a lap down in terms of things. So he's gone from winning the race last week to absolutely no pace yet again this week. So more concerns for John Latham. And as he continues to struggle, at least there has been occasional shows of brilliance from him, which is he completely just went missing last season.
Yeah, he's and it is a difficult sort of track to come to, especially when you sort of think we went through a very windy, high-speed open circuit. And there are some tracks where drivers just will not clip to. I know for a fact that this is probably one of those tracks where I really struggle to clip to. So yeah, you know, there will be those ebb and flows of pace. It's just going to be, trying to sort of minimise the damage per se. When you're at a track that you generally don't feel like you have a lot of pace on, you generally struggle at, it's just trying to keep your nose clean and just try and back poise away. So at the moment, it's not quite working out for John, but yeah, still a fair bit to go in this race. And again, be hanging out for a safety car. If we get a safety car, it's going to buy a lot of people back into this race, no doubt.
It's going to change things up because everyone's going to come down. Effectively, strategy is going to be neutralised, and it's going to come down to who's got the shortest stop to make. And of those top 3 right now, you'd have to say Darren Lobb is going to be in a significant advantage where we are right now, and he has started to take ground. The gap's now down under 6 seconds, as is this gap down under 1 second, as Taliancic and Ken Ladder start to come back a little bit together. And it looks to be that although the last lap for Ladder was a little bit off, I think it's going to be this lap for Taliancic that's going to be a little bit slower. So these two are going to be neck and neck, toe and toe to toe. Something's happened to Damien Cairns.
Called a race control just to investigate an incident, but
moving on the brakes too on the run to turn 1, which is not common.
No, generally not, but running through the fountain section at the moment as they make the run up to turn 4, heading up to turn 5, just using all of that curve. And you see how much the quarter just goes off camber, and bouncing over those curves just makes the car just a little bit unsettled. To try and get the power down, it's just so difficult. Holding a very, very narrow line coming out of there too, just trying to straighten the car up as much, not let the car flow out to the right. I know that...
huge incident! Huge incident at the last corner! Huge incident! There was multiple cars involved, and now they've all been backed up, and it's going to be Damien Cairns that gets into the rear bumper of Simon Heddershire that triggers it all.
Oh, let's get a replay. That one looks like Simon's got going, but there was a few cars that came out of that incident very heavily damaged.
Just in the background of that shot. That is the leaders coming off the last corner as well. So it was only just in front of our leaders, and I think for Damien Cairns, that might be the second time a fast repair might have been used tonight, so I think he's stuck with that damage to the end of the race.
Yeah, did not clear it off there, but we'll go look at a replay. Look at header shot here. Bit slow through the corner, and then, oh, okay, oh, and then everyone's just sort of checked up and got into one another, but try and see how that looks.
Wide?
Yeah, and he's a bit wide of the corner, but yeah, Simon's just, unless he was just not expecting him to sort of be so slow at the apex, but yeah, he's just gone straight to the back of him and spun Simon around, so yeah, race control will no doubt be having a look at that one.
That's the second time those two cars, by the way, had contact within the space of a lap. So, yeah, neither driver too happy. Both of them a little bit hot under the collar when that one happened.
No, could imagine so. If you just get to a corner and all of a sudden you're going around looking the opposite direction. Did we just see two cars go through side by side out of turn 11?
Oh, not just side by side through turn number 11. They're going to be side by side down the main straight. It's going to be Stephen Banks, I believe, alongside of Steve Grumley. It looks to be on the run down to turn number 1. Indeed, it is for both of those guys. Banks is going to back out of it, and it's going to be Grumley that goes down. Huge contact with the barriers on the right-hand side. Banks will collect him on the way out of there, and now they're going to try and gather it up and get out the other side, right in front of our race leaders, who they've just had to sidestep as best he possibly can. So Grumley will get out the other side, but it looks like those tyres, Maz, they're starting to fade off, almost like a little bit of mozzarella has been grated off the surface of those tyres.
Yes. God, you always get me with those one-liners, but yeah, went down the inside, looked like he had the job done, but yeah, just pinched the rears by the looks of it. Whether it was just shifted down gears too much, yeah, maybe it came in a bit too hot, shifted down gears a bit too much.
He's missed his braking marker, 100% he's missed the marker.
Oh, yeah, in second and just go on board again. Wait and see. I know you're roughly braking sort of at that break there. Yeah, no, he's got him way too deep. Tried to pull it up, but hit the wall. And yeah, so easy. It seems like it's just, you know, easier to hit your braking marker at turn 1, but especially when you're offline and you're not sort of used to where you've probably got braking markers set up around the track and you can't quite see with flashing lights for Darren Lobboy to get through as well. So sometimes you're just a little bit offline and you can't sort of see that braking marker that you had there before. Yeah, it's super easy to just go that little bit too deep into turn 1, and turn 1 punishes you for it. If you miss it by a little bit, you won't make the apex. It's quite a tricky corner that you have to be sort of switched on every time you go in there to not get it stuck at the exit of turn 1.
And the worst part is when you get in too deep in there, you've got to brake in a straight line and pull the car up, so you've lost nearly a second. Well, otherwise you either hit the barrier or you've lost about a second when you get in there too hot. But in the meantime, for that contact at the hairpin a couple laps ago, between Heather Scheid and Damien Cairns, Damien Cairns will have a drive through to serve. And in the meantime, Travis Hunt, this has been interesting to watch, the racing between these guys, because Hunt and Kirby have gone the opposite ways in terms of strategies a number of times. Think back to Monza, and until Travis Hunt just had issues with maintaining power in the car. Up until that point, he was in a phenomenal spot, and they're only just in behind these guys as well. So what's going on here for Blake Delaney? This is going to be down at 6 and 7. Is he going to turn in too early at turn 8? I get the feeling he will. No, lost it.
Nuts. Oh, hit that wall hard too. Because I did see the smoke as we were watching Travis and Kirby come through. I did see the smoke, but yeah, wasn't sure 100% what it was. Again, just hit that wall side on. Doesn't look like the car's looking too much of a handful. So again, might have been lucky, like we saw in that opening lap. Where actually, yeah, Delaney again actually was there the second lap into turn one just smashing the side of the wall. So similar sort of thing again, but again might have just gotten away with it.
Yeah, but continue to watch the rear end of this car wiggle around from Travis Hunt. He has got a workload ahead of him. Dave Kirby, Mr. Consistent, he's turned into nearly a little bit like Kirby, the video game character. That reference is probably going to be not necessarily communing well with our audience, but he just absorbs the talent of anyone around him, Dave Kirby, and finds a way to get results out the other side. May not have the raw pace that's required to run at the front in terms of overall lap pace, but he does find a way to get the job done, and that is the key factor for him.
Yep. Consistency is key, as I always say. And they also say to first you must first finish. So yes, 100% just chipping away at those results, you know, maximizing what you can do on the day.
Just seen an incident between Troy Stonestreet and Scotty Van Loon, and that's the other side of that one. I was just hearing about this one on the in-race radio, when that's Scotty Van Loon, and Troy Stonestreet, by the way, was just coming out of the pit lane at the end of start lap 24, so he was on fresh rubber, hence why he was trying to crack on with things.
Wouldn't mind seeing that again from a different angle, but definitely looks like he got down the inside. Let's see, we'll have let's spin back and have a look at it, try and get a look at it from a different angle. See that coming out of turn 5, yeah, you can see very good run out of the corner from Troy as they go down into the next corner. He's got the car there, the car's there.
Is he up to the B pillar though?
Yeah, I think he's there. I think he is there.
He's on the edge. This is going to be incredibly tight. Another one. We're playing devil's advocate, shall we say, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, if that were me, Scotty, I think you need to give him room there. I got a feeling that Troy was going to get to the inside.
But they're not on the same lap, man, is the difference. Stonestreet was a lap car. We've just come out of the pit lane, and there's the uniqueness, similar to Sandown, in the way that the tyres fall off, and then you've only got, what, a minute and 5 second, minute 10 second lap there, minute and 18 second lap here. So the lap distance is not all that dissimilar, and Stonestreet had just come out of the pits, so, a lot to consider there from race control.
In that situation, if you know the guy that's come out of the pits, even though he's a lap down and he's got new tyres, you probably just let him go. But interesting situation, but yes. Yeah, so, sometimes it you look at a situation and sort of think, could you do something to maybe avoid it? I'm always sort of one to look at those situations and say, could I have avoided it? Could I have prevented it? And yeah, that one's probably one I'd go back and have a revisit.
Yep. And Ken Latter is going to come to the pit lane, which means this is a very, very important lap for all involved. How long does Darren Lobb go on this one? And have a look at where Darren Lobb is in terms of things. Remember, Darren Lobb has cleared 3 extra seconds of his pit stop, and he's only about an effective 0.8 of a second behind Michael Taliancic now. So this is going to be critical. If Darren Lobb comes down on the next lap, Taliancic is absolutely going to pit on the next lap. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. We are 28 laps into this race. Sorry, we're 30 laps into this race. My word, this is about to start really getting spicy. And now it's going to be Darren Lobb. That's the second time he's had to go past Brenton O'Brien, I think, tonight.
Yep. Just trying to catch up on everything that's sort of going on at the moment. The other thing that's also sort of popped out as well is that gap between Blake Delaney and Hunt and Kirby has closed up big time. They're in a 3-car battle. And you can see, I don't think Darren's going to be too happy with that one. That probably could have been made a little bit easier, but we'll get past now. We'll see if he'll keep going. And yeah, it'll keep going as well.
So the problem for me here is that Ladder's going for the big old undercut, while Taliancic's just going, all right, have fun. I'm going for the overcut, my friend.
Yeah, look at the traffic in front at the moment. That was probably going to be the next question: is while Taliancic has clean air, do you just take advantage of that, whereas Ken Ladder's got to try and sort of move his way through the field, and they're going to be for position. They're not going to be lap traffic. They're going to be for position, so he's going to have to do it the hard way to get past them.
Well, have a look at where Taliancic is on track. So here goes Ladder down the inside of the hairpin. He will get one done. That's on Stuart Hall. The next car for him is going to be Scotty Van Loon, who's just at the back end of the top 10 at this point in time. But have a look at Taliancic as well. Taliancic is in traffic, and you mentioned it. You hit the nail on the head. His traffic is indeed lap traffic. But he is also in the middle of it. The critical factor and the difference between this, I got this lovely bit of advice from XM's crew chief that I've had some iRacing experience with, and he said the slower your lap times, the less lap traffic you're going to encounter. You slap fresh rubber on, you're doing quicker lap times. So from Taliancic, he's not closing those cars at a great rate of knots. So the difficulty in the pass is not, well, I mean, the difficulty in the pass goes up, but he's not catching as many cars and not really getting in his lap, in his way. He's not sacrificing all that much. I reckon he's going to run this thing dry, close to dry. Yeah.
That'd probably be the plan, especially if you're going to have the undercuts going to happen from Ken Ladder. If it goes long enough, the undercut will play itself into it. So then you basically want to be able to come out with the fresher set of tyres that you can run hard at Ken Ladder with, because you've got to try and get the pass done after that, because he probably will get you from the undercut. So yeah, run the tank dry would definitely be the suggestion at the moment. And Travis Hunt, looks like something's happened there.
That's a Blake Delaney just ahead of him. Is Delaney starting to ail in terms of things because of that damage to the left-hand side of the car?
Whoa!
That's a slowdown. That's a slowdown.
Oh! Oh no! He's out of fuel! That's it! And there's a safety car. There is the safety car call. That is the get out of jail card for Michael Taliancic.
Where is he? Did he make it?
Coming out of the final corner? Yep, there he is.
Oh, they called it early enough, so he did get into the lane.
Yep. So that is going to be a massive get out of jail free car for Taliancic. If you get this pit stop done real quick, he might be able to pop out in front. But wait and see what the safety car does. This is going to be tricky trying to pick this one up. But interesting to see where Ken Ladder is.
I needed to wait at the pit lane exit. The safety car's already transiting the track.
Safety car is roughly around turn 5, but we're going to keep an eye on this at the moment.
What they're going to need to do is need to pull this safety car over right here and just stop. And just stop is the problem that they've got, because if they continue on, then they're going to continue to create issues. Yeah, they've done that with the safety car.
Clear. Just going to wait and see. Wait and see where Ken Ladder is. He's going to be on the front straight at the moment, but I reckon he's going to pop out in front. It's going to be close. Yeah, no, he's going to get it. Easy, easy, easy. That is the biggest get out of jail for Taliancic. And Darren Lobb's actually going to pop out in front too.
And they're both going to have fresh rubber. Oh!
Yep. Oh, that might be a call in there, I reckon.
They'll have a look at it.
I'll have to have a look at that one. Was Darren Lobb in front when they exited the pit lane? Because I would almost say that Darren probably has that position over Ken. But it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But that's going to shift this race a bit.
It has been questioned. I just heard it, Mez. It has been questioned.
Yep.
So ladies and gentlemen, normally what happens in this instance, now there's a couple of very, very important points. In real-world racing, there's a safety car line which governs where it is. In iRacing, they have to pick it out, and every series does this differently. At this point in time, Lobb's ahead.
Yeah, assuming that's what they use. Sometimes I think OSR does use the actual blend line, safety car line at Bathurst, because it's actually painted. You could actually see it properly. So we don't use the blue line. You usually use the actual SimSpeed line.
And it differs track to track is the critical
exactly.
thing. So
yeah.
Do it out in supplementary regulations. Yeah, so that's where we're going to go digging.
Yeah. But assuming that's what they've used, they've just used that blue line as the end of pit lane, and that's their marker. Then 100% Darren Lobb has that position. That'll have to be reversed at some point.
Yeah, and they'll use it. And they're gonna clear the lapped cars at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen. So what you're going to see here is all the lap cars will slowly get called past the safety car, and everyone else will have to sit there.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you what,
yeah.
I have to give you credit. You did call that for Darren Lobb, that this was going to work out for him in the end. We just didn't think the safety car was going to be the factor, but you did call it. Darren Lobb was going to be the big benefactor out of this one.
He just went alternate, just had a crack at something different, right? And the critical factor was how short this final stop was going to be for him. Have a look at the difference in it. There's that 3 to 4 seconds, right?
Yeah. Which is yeah, all it is. Well, obviously we saw it right there and then with the blending out of pit lane. There was your 3 seconds. If obviously if Darren had to take more fuel on, that was never going to be a question. It was Ken was always going to get that spot. So yeah, playing that alternate strategy, and then obviously the safety car sort of worked in his favour. That extra 3 seconds, got an extra spot out of it. So yeah, we'll have fresher tyres than what Ken will have at the moment. He'll be on par with Taliancic. So yeah, Ken will probably be able to go with this group at the moment, but I think once it sorts itself out, it'll probably be a battle between Darren Lobb and Taliancic for the win at this point.
Ooh, there's a few more calls to blend line. So that... Okay, they've just called it. They've just called it. They're reversing the positions. The 990's just been called through on car 269, which means Ken Latta, he's on older rubber, and he's behind these two guys. So that one is done.
Yeah. Like I said, I think Ken will be able to go with him. I don't think he's going to fall off the back of him, but it will be pretty difficult, especially if they're going to be on new rubber. And we've come in under safety car, so they, Taliancic and Lobb haven't actually put the heat into the tyre yet, so they're going to have peak performance when they go back to green as well. Whereas Ken's already put a bit of heat into the tyres. Yeah, they'll cool down. They'll probably come back to him, but probably won't have that peak pace. And that'll be a big difference when we go back to green. But like I said, in saying that, I still think Ken has enough pace to probably go with them. It just might be a bit more difficult to try and race them for the win.
And there's been another redress issued as well. That was for Peter van der Kraan. He just got waived by Stephen Banks and Troy Stone Street. So another blend line issue there. It's not an issue. I mean, the thing is, the drivers from their racing position don't have complete understanding of exactly what they can't see it perfectly, right? So this isn't something that we sit down and we go, oh yeah, they're having a look at it, they're mad about it. No. This is just procedural. They just go, yep, can we just double check where the positions were? Yep, 100%. It was this way. Beautiful. You love to see it when it's done properly, and they're taking the time to fix that up at this point in time. So fuel has been waved through. This will be the final lap of safety car. We will go back to green flag racing at the conclusion of this lap. It's going to be, what have we got, 13 laps or so to go at the end of this one, worth of racing action here to the end of the 150 kilometers of Long Beach for V8 veterans on a Thursday night. Time for a little shout out of the sponsors. We want to say a big shout out to all the sponsors that do make it possible for supporting the series. Big shout out to Logitech G, Parramatta Isuzu U, Nova Sim Sports, and there was one more. I'm always terrible with the sponsors. I tell you this, Mez, I always forget names in real life, so it's a good thing I've remembered yours. But a big shout out to Play One Sim Gear was the final one of the sponsors as well. They don't get enough support. It's an absolute pleasure to have the sponsors on board to make it possible for series like V8 Veterans, and I always say how much I love this series in particular for the attitude of the drivers, the character of it. You know, it's got a little bit more going for it in my mind than a lot of that couple of leagues. Never wanted to say throughout the entirety of my life, I can't wait to turn 40. But all of a sudden, I can't wait to turn 40, Mez.
Look, commentating on this thing is where I'm pretty happy at the moment. I'm not in a hurry to get to that age. You know, it'll be awesome, the opportunity one day. If the series is still around, I definitely feel like I'd have a crack at it. But yeah, the longer I commentate on this league before I'm at the age where I could drive in it, the happier I'll be.
And Michael Taliancic has gone before the last corner, wanted to catch some napping a little bit, has gained himself a fraction extra in terms of that lead as they get back to green flag racing. Ladies and gentlemen, there is going to be 13 laps from Long Beach. Michael Taliancic has control. Darren Watt will be the car in pursuit. Can Ken Latta look after the tyres? Can he hang on to him? And Bruce Tannock will be sitting there in fourth. Is it time for Bruce to find his way onto the V8 Veterans podium? All will be decided in 13 laps time. And the critical factor as well, will there be incidents to come? At Long Beach, an incident is only moments away.
Yeah, good. It's a good getaway from everyone. The field's still spread out. We've still got people coming across the start-finish line, but yeah, it has allowed everyone to spread out really, really well. Good jump off the line from Taliancic and Lob as well. They're starting to stretch that little gap a little bit. Bruce Tannock on screen at the moment, continuing his good effort. We're looking at David Nash at the moment, just checking up a little bit. It's going to be a few cars trying to find their way through. It looks like that's Dan Hill, 3 wide. That's done a good job to get away with that one and not have another incident. But Dan's going to have another look at turn 8, but not quite going to get there.
And they're all going to finally settle themselves in. Back on the start of this lap at the restart, mind you, David Nash restarted 11th. From 21st on the grid, that is a reasonable gain, you would have said, up 10 spots, except for now it's only +4 because he has lost 6 spots since that restart.
Be a bit disappointed with that one. We're on board with Dan Hall at the moment. All over the back of, trying to pick down Nash at the moment. Heading down towards the front straight, so have to admire the setup at the moment from Dan Hall.
I think Dan Hall's admiring a little bit more than the setup. I think he's admiring his chances of getting by David Nash, who he continues to try and round up. Robert Crisdale is going to get a warning for internet connection quality. We did see that a little bit earlier in the season, but for Crisdale, it's not been typical for him. So something clearly happening at the moment. Don't forget, next week, coming to you from One American's tight, twisty circuit. And next week it'll be the same from Laguna Seca. And this is the run down the inside for Fewens. Turned in on a little bit by Kennedy, you'd have to say.
Oh, is he stuck?
The barriers? No, he got out. He got out.
Oh, I thought that for a second too. The way that car sort of bobbled, I was like, oh, I don't think he's stuck there. But no, he's managed to get out and get going, which would be good. Don't want to throw another safety car at the moment, but you can see behind another pass going on there behind this pack at the moment. It's going to run side by side, nearly run side by side into it. Look at who was that we're looking at the moment? Stewie Hall on screen, but Daragusi, sorry.
In the chubby buns entry.
Chili buns? Yes.
I mean, chubby buns.
Chubby buns. Where did I get chili from? No idea, but John Latham into the pit lane, and that car's got a bit of damage as well. So this round has not gone well for our winner from the last round. Looking on screen at the moment, we're having a replay with Brenton O'Brien handing up turn 5.
Burns, it is Paul Burns immediately behind him, but he's going to lose it all on his own.
Yeah. Done a good job to keep it off the wall, but yeah, not looking happy there for John Latham. But as expected, Taliancic has done a good restart here. Darren Lobb going with him at the moment, and yeah, expected Ken Latta able to hang on to this little pack at the moment. Didn't quite get off that turn 11 hairpin so good, but stick with this pack at the moment. And the pack behind staying in tow as well. Bruce Tannock not far behind. Blake Delaney, even though Blake sort of clipped the wall a few times tonight, still doing a good job in 5th spot, only down a spot from where he started. So a solid effort. You see the right hand side of that car is still a little bit bruised at the moment, but still got plenty of pace in the car at the moment.
Well, having a look up and down the field, it's interesting to note that the 3 fishy entries, 5th, 6th and 7th, Delaney, Miller, Kirby, so they're having a reasonable night at the office, and YouTube chat's come alive to give Mez a little bit of a rough up around the ears. Apparently chat thought you were over 40 already, Mez, so have you got a few things to say to the people out there on YouTube land?
I know my age isn't 40, but trust me, every morning I feel like I'm 40. So I don't blame them. I do not blame them.
Mate, I had my first cricket training of the season yesterday. I'm in pain.
I had my first cricket game of the season on Saturday, and I think I've only just started to recover. I had to leave training early on Tuesday because I just was so sore from Saturday, and it's just like, man, I can't do this anymore. I'm getting old.
Well, for the last 6 months, I didn't know I had abs, but they're taking every opportunity to remind me that I do, in fact, have abs. They may not be as fit as I remember them being, but hey, that's a different story for a different occasion. In the meantime, the drivers, I think, are starting to suffer the effects of fatigue. Maybe there'll be a few of these guys who'll be a little bit sore tomorrow from 150 kilometres at Long Beach. This is the one that shows up on the circuit quite regularly. I think this is what, we had a season off last season, maybe the season before. And in the meantime, let's try and settle in. I'll tell you what, Bruce Tannick is all out of control at this point in time, but so is Dan Hall trying to close up on the rear bumper of David Nash. And for all those spots that Nash lost on the opening lap under that restart, he's gained one of them back. And for now, he's chasing down Chad Lewis and Scotty Van Loos. There's a little bit of pace, and there was a lock break as they get down here to turn 6, and it's Fewens that runs wide. So I get the feeling it was Jason Fewens that pinched a break on the run down into 6. This battle pack is starting to come alive as they normally do. It's the mid-teens, and most of these guys feel like they're still in the mid-teens when they're in the V8 supercar.
That's why we love sim racing. Make us feel young again. But yeah, this battle pack, as always, you always see them pop up. It'll be just usually sort of in this spot here, either just outside of the top 10 or just inside the top 10. There'll be a group of them that'll get together and the fight will be on. You can see in the background too, just behind Dan Hall as well. There's Robbie Griffiths closing in on that as well. So there's going to be a decent battle pack here.
12th all the way to 18th minutes. That's how big it is.
Yeah, solid little pack at the moment. So Jason Fewens on board at the moment, heading into turn 1. So
big moment for Nash. Nash is going to clip the wall. That's going to allow Dan Hall to get down the inside of the fountain. You don't often see an overtake there, but it was a mistake from David Nash on the run into turn number 1. Clips the outside wall, and an opportunity taken for Dan Hall. And this is going to be the replay. You can see he's not quite close enough up, but we'll keep our eyes on David Nash. He's fighting a ton of draft from the pack up ahead, gets in just a fraction hot. The car doesn't want to turn in, and check this out from Dan Hall. He's done a great job to find the gap there.
And given space too. That is actually a good job by both parties involved there. One to find that gap, and then to give the space. He hasn't closed the corner off on him at all, on Nash.
Can we go back to live pictures? Because right now these two are still scrapping away. Nash got a huge run off the back straight away, and all the way down there's a Parkway Drive off of turn 8. And have a look at the battle pack. Fewens is still up and at the head of it. This one is going to kick on. We are down to only, what have we got, 7 laps left to run in the V8 Veterans round from Long Beach. Time is running out. Fewens is boxing these guys up, or is it Stuart Hall who's got great drive off the final corner? Maybe it's going to be a scrap for that P11 spot, because it's starting to get tight at the top of this pack.
Yeah, gaps are starting to close up all over the space, but yeah, this little group at the moment, Stuart Hall in the front of it, starting to stretch out a little bit now. We sort of had those few positions swap and change. It's given a bit of a breather to Scotty Van Loon, but yeah, it won't be long before they're going to be all over the back of him again. We're on board with Jason Fewens again, on board with the camera as well. We're trying to close up as much as he can onto the back of Stewie Hall, running out of turn 8 onto the back straight, using every little bit of inch of that track. You see right apart against the wall, running down towards turn 9. Just trying to, you can see Stewie Hall car's just sliding a little bit at the moment. He's trying to use everything he's got in those rear tyres at the moment to try and keep that gap between Fewens. And you can see closes right up on the rear bumper as they go into turn 10. Gets a good run off the corner as well. Going to close that gap up a little bit, but still not quite enough to be able to get a run into turn 1. So they'll have to reset and go again. But you can see that gap to the car behind. He's not under a lot of pressure from Van Loon. But yeah, the two ERT cars comfortably pushing a little bit of a gap away from David Nash at the moment.
It's still tied up ahead of these guys, but it's just they're not quite close enough for anything to start happening, by the way. So inside the top 10, there is still going to be some battling going on, but it'll be really interesting to see if these guys scrap on a little bit or whether or not they make that decision. Sometimes with teammates, Mez, and they just sort of chat and go, hey, yeah, look, I've got the pace. And other times they go, man, I've been looking forward to fighting you for a fair while. Let's scrap on. Another big puff of smoke. Well, they've gone, yep, let's not fight this one. We know who's got the pace at this point in time. And yet again, that big puff of smoke was from the same car it was a couple laps ago. It's Jason Fewens yet again. Big old slide, big old brake lock on the run down at turn number 6, and with only a couple laps left to run now as we're getting deep into this race, time is running out and mistakes are going to count.
Yeah, they're going to be using it, but they would have all got there. Oh, pinch the rears going into the corner, and then the insides have locked. He's done a good job to make the apex, but then it's going to be so difficult to get the throttle on coming off the corner. His tyres are already going to be a bit hot, but yeah, holds onto that position so far, but Dan Hall's going to be coming at them. He's got the pace at the moment, but go back up front again and tell the Yancic to just eke that gap out a little bit. It's out to about 7/10 now, and Ken Latta not far behind as well, about 7/10 as well. So this gap has just sort of stabilised between the top 3 at the moment. Taliancic's just doing a nice good job, and Ken Latta just going with them at the moment, but you know, if he had that little bit more pace in the car, those little bit older tyres, just not quite. You can see he's coming off the corner, just a little bit of a wiggle off the back of that SSR Falcon at the moment. Oh, Robbie Griffiths, by the looks of it, it's going to open up the door for Chad Lewis. Let's head down.
Well, Chad Lewis is drifting at this point in time. He's lost 2 spots since he let Dan Hall through. And it's getting tighter and tighter. So this is going to be Nash on the run off the final corner. And then we'll go all the way through to the fountain section. This is going to tell us a lot more, and that is why Lewis has just lost all those spots. Gets a rough up. He's going to get Nash to the inside. That's not an overtaking opportunity. That's Nash in the fence. And that's why David Nash and Robbie Griffiths both picked up a spot on Chad Lewis. And he's feeling a little bit too close for comfort with those barriers. As we go back to live pictures, Robbie Griffiths just made a mistake off of the final corner. So now that's going to present a potential opportunity for Lewis to nick this one back when they get down here to turn 1. He's still a long way back. He's still going to have to get himself a little bit closer and up and alongside, but there will be an opportunity in the water, nice and easy on the run down to turn number 1. Sniffing for a mistake, and there is 4 laps left in this race now, Mez. If you got something left, it's time to close in.
Speaking of 4, the battle for P4 has kicked off big time as well. Blake Delaney's been all over the back of Bruce Tannock. Bruce is trying to hold onto the rear of this car through turns 5 and 4 and 5. He was sliding all over the shop. Delaney's got pace at the moment, and Bruce is having to work hard here at the moment to try and hold on to P4. Just watching him run into turn 9. You can look at, just watch the rear of Bruce Tannock's car. He's just try to drive the thing as straight as he possibly can. As soon as he tries to grab the throttle, just watch the rear. Delaney trying to swing the car out wide, try and get a much straighter off the corner, but Tannock's done a really good job. Got the car off the corner well, will hold that little bit of a gap out. Actually, that's going to push a bit of a gap out as well. So Delaney trying to sort of run the car deeper into the corner, get it to turn back and to get a straighter run off the corner. Hasn't quite worked out, but we'll see. They'll be able to close up through this section here because, yeah, at the moment, looks like Tannock doesn't really have the pace in those tyres at the moment.
Yeah, so Tannock's struggling. There's a number of drivers that are struggling. Well, the struggles are slowly coming to an end. 3 laps left in terms of this race. And for the moment, it looks like Darren Crosby's having some dramas as well. So as the temperature turns itself up right around the country, it turns its heat up in terms of the sim. Now things are starting to come undone for drivers in their internet connections as well. I'll tell you what, Robbie Griffiths in that battle pack we were talking about just made another mistake through the fountain. So it's going to provide another opportunity for Chad Lewis to close in. And Lewis has got to run here. Little bit of a wiggle as they get down there for turn 5. And I'll always say when you come to Long Beach, it's not necessarily turn 1. It's you've got to sometimes just pull the trigger. As we saw at Sandown in just an odd spot. Don't wait for the easy one, because they're going to be wise to that one. It's sometimes the oddest place to get the pass done. Gets the job done.
Yeah, and that's I think a key there is just to make sure you get alongside the person too. You can't really have half a go and just to try and coax him out of it, you've got to commit to it. If you're going to go for that pass, wherever it's going to be, just make sure you commit to that move. Otherwise, yeah, virtually we've seen it a little bit tonight. Just not fully committing to the move can cause a bit of a hiccup. But Greg Sharp on screen at the moment. This little train starting to develop as well as here. We saw Stewie Griffiths was sort of the leader of that pack, but now Greg Sharp's starting to fall away a little bit. That's allowing that pack to catch up, and Nash well wide of the apex at turn 1. He might have to go for another trip back there next lap and have a look and see where that apex was, because I think he lost it.
He's been missing a few apexes in the last few laps, so if anyone can get David Nash's address and mail him an apex, eventually he might find one. But the way that Australian internet works, that might actually find him sooner than the packets from his server. We'll find that out. That's the tail end of this one. For Dan Hall, he's still looking comfortable at lead of this pack. For this battle, a little bit deeper in the field for Peter van der Kraan and Stephen Banks. They're nice and tight as well. There's battles everywhere you look. But for Barney in the flag tower, there is only going to be one more flag he'll need to wave after this one. It's the white flag. Next time he'll go through it, he'll add some black checkers to it, and that'll sign, seal, and deliver it for Michael Taliancic. It's been smooth, it's been fast, it's been pit stops at the right time. The strategy calls were on the point, and for Darren Lobb, he got a little bit lucky, and for Ken Latta, he got a little bit unlucky, and that's what rounds out your podium.
Yeah, they're going to be close together. Ken Latta's all over the back of Lobb. He's going to be looking for an opportunity. He wants to get that spot back. There's a little bit of a resurgence in this SSR Mustang at the moment. Trying to get nice and close to the rear bumper, just try and get it off the corner. He's done a really good job getting it off the corner. Can he just close it in?
We can.
In turn 8, right up on the rear bumper. He's got a good run off turn 8 as they make the run down to turn 9. Is there going to be an opportunity? Is the draft going to present an opportunity? Is he going to have a look? Not quite, not close enough. Looks like the battle for second and third might be sorted there as they run towards the final corner, unless he's going to have a big look into the final corner. Darren Lobb's going to check him up. They're going to run side by side out of the corner, but that'll be it. That'll seal it. But Michael Taliancic will get the job done, picks up the win. Darren Lobb in P2 and Latta picking up P3. And Bruce Taddick as well. Fuel!
Wait, Delaney's out. Delaney is out of fuel on the last lap of the race. He'll only lose one spot, so he will get a fraction lucky here. And we were looking for him to surge later on in that one. There's contact way at the back end of this one as well. And there's another driver, Stewie Hall, struggling to get that thing back to the line. It's going to present an opportunity for Scotty Van Loon to nick one. And Jason Fewens is going to drop a couple spots on that last lap as well. So it's all kicked off on the final lap of the race. And the field will finally manage to trundle their way on by and get it home, get the job done. We expected a safety car when we came to Long Beach. We got one, but we only got one in what was a wild and furious affair from the Concrete Canyon.
Yep. So for the only to be one safety car, hats off to everyone tonight. They've done a fantastic job to keep this race going. And yeah, happily take that one with only one safety car.
Well, the benefit is for Jason Fewens, he's going to lock those rear brakes now. It won't matter.
Don't need him anymore. And
this was the moment at the last corner for those guys. And for Fewens, he was right up and underneath the rear wing of the car ahead. And my word, the 49 entry there of Stewie Hall just could not get that car to turn in. And for Scotty Van Loon, he thought bargain.
Yep. Get two of them. That's a solid effort. So yep, there's the move, and he's picked it up beautifully. Scotty's just seen what's going on. He's just like, I know what to do in this situation. Done a really good job. And same for Stewie, he's going to get the run too. So that was actually really close at the line. So that was actually, considering the contact, that was a really good run off the final corner for Stewie Hall to, try and challenge that, to get that spot back by the time we got to the line.
And critically for me, you know what that looked like? It looked like somebody at the end of a garage sale that has 3 items left on the table. You walk up to them and you're like, you don't want to put those items back inside your house. Nah, look, I'll take them off you. But I ain't giving you nothing for him. And for Scotty Van Loon, he has absolutely made the king of the bargain bin at the garage sale on Long Beach. Well, race results are going to come up on the screen when they started that final lap. The top three were covered by less than a second. Lob and Ladder went at it, and unfortunately for both of those drivers, fall back outside the second. It will be the podium, at least for the two of them. For Bruce Tannock, he will get home in fourth spot. Dave Kirby got by Blake Delaney, and Chris Miller will come home in seventh. So Kirby picked up a nice big bag of points there. Jeff Thomas had an okay night at the office, and Chad Vigor as well, also getting the top 10 for Matt Vanderkran. That's actually quite a good drive from him. 17th to 10th to finish the night out. We'll throw it over the page to the second round. Greg Sharp had a reasonably clean night, and he's starting to put a few more of those together for Greg. That'll be a great result for him. Keep your eyes on him as he continues to progress through the series. And the battle that we saw all the way to the line between Van Loon, Hall, and Fewens were your next three cars home. Dan Hall got by David Nash in the closing stages of things. Robbie Griffiths and those guys got amongst it. Chad Lewis, Tim Nicol, and Jamie McKnight are going to round out your top 20.
And we'll flip over. Darren Crosby will come home in 21st place. Peter van der Kraan. It was an amazing qualifying effort to get inside the top 10, but good recovery to come back to 22nd. Troy Stone Street, 23rd. Todd Duggan in 24th. Stephen Kennedy come home in 25th spot. Darren Goosey in P26. Dean Favell Paul Burns will come home in 27th with Dean Favell in 28th. Scott McCune will come home in 29th with Steve Banks rounding out the top 30. And we'll flip over to Brenton O'Brien, one of the non-qualified starting, able to finish 31st. Simon Hederscheit again up to 32nd. Stephen Grumley in 33rd. Chris Barrage in 34th. Travis Hunt able to get back out and come home a lap down. John Latham, well, winner last round, but Long Beach has not been fair this time out. Come home in 36th. Damien Cairns, first of the DNFers, in 37th, and Robert Crisdale, DNF in 38th.
That is going to go ahead and complete all of our finishes for tonight. It looks like everyone's just about worn out from this one. Maybe there were a few drivers that had a rough start of the cricket season, and a few of them are still recovering. We'll have to chat away to them. But in the meantime, we've only got one driver to talk to at the moment. That will be our third place finisher in terms of things. Ken Ladder finished on the bottom step of the podium, unfortunately, tonight. That safety car just fell at the exact wrong moment for you.
It certainly did. You know, obviously, if I had stayed out, I would have short-filled a little bit, which I think I had enough to put me into the lead, but unfortunately, it didn't fall that way, did it?
Mate, those are the risks you take. You gamble when you come to a street circuit, but the racing, other than that, was relatively good. It was back and forth, and we're seeing with the shorter races now with the compulsory pit stops, it's a little bit a game of fuel chicken, isn't it? Who's going to dip first? Who's going to take too much fuel early on? Who's going to take not enough fuel early on and have to come down early? It's a lot of games of undercuts, overcuts, and, well, it's starting to look really, really interesting.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, I think this week I really put some thought into how I wanted to run the race, how I wanted to run my fuel. And I think I've pretty much had it on point, but unfortunately, as we saw, it just didn't fall my way tonight.
In terms of things from a driver's perspective, for me, I like when we get to these sort of strategy races because it says we're going to put you completely and utterly in control of your own destiny. And I talk to a lot of Oval guys about this. Well, with strategy, it's take control of your destiny. Are you enjoying compulsory pit stops going, I've got to think about this, I've got to really craft a race, and I've got to go, this situation isn't working, I need to get out of this, and it gives you another lever to pull?
I think it definitely does. I think I've been a little bit slow to sort of really think about how I should be sort of running it, and I'm sort of more thinking about it now, and I think obviously different tracks, like the strategy would have to differ somewhat. Tonight, when I pitted, and I noticed that Lob was actually catching a little bit behind us, he must have been in a little bit freer air, or the fact that he was just by himself and managing the traffic was made it a bit easier rather than having to manage the traffic with two drivers so close together.
And finally, mate, Long Beach, nice and tricky. We're off to Laguna Seca next week. How are your thoughts on that track as well?
It's one of those tracks where it's either working for you or it's not. So hopefully it's working for me next week.
All right, mate. The opportunity to thank all the sponsors to make it possible for Synergy Sim Racing and Ken Ladder.
One out to Mike. Like he ran a good race as normal, and Lob, he's very well driven. You guys, Race Control, all the guys at SSR, Wave Runner Performance, Smith & Sons, DR Epoxy, DGG Customs, Australian Laminating Company, JK Signs, Nolan, Aftershock PC, Western Mazda, and 2 Easy Finance. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Ken. Thank you for your time, mate. We'll see you again next week from Laguna Seca.
Okay, cheers. Bye-bye.
And Simon Metzarella, I believe you've got Darren Lobb on standby.
Yes. Just no. Don't mind me. Sorry.
Simon Mares, can you just explain to the audience at home what just happened there?
I need to do that. Darren, fantastic race tonight. You went for the alternate strategy compared to everyone else. Everyone sort of took the early stop. You stayed out a bit later, and yeah, it seemed to work out in your favour. Was it kind of hoping for a safety car to play in, or was it just the strategy you sort of went with?
It was kind of, I got the jump on Ken at the beginning, and then I just started not paying attention when I was running behind Mike, and I crossed over into the pit lane right at the beginning and got a slowdown. And once that dropped me behind Ken, I was kind of I had to do something different to what they were doing. So, you know, I kind of thought, oh, maybe go early, and then one of them pitted, and then I kind of went, fuck, by the time I got to the end of it, I was resigned to just running the tank dry. And then it's the nice thing with the 2 pit stop races, I wasn't too sure how much fuel to put in. So I kind of thought, well, the only thing I can do is go a lot longer than them. So I put 50 odd litres in, and it worked because I had a pretty good second stint. I don't know if I just looked after the tyres or get a better gig with traffic. So I was really hoping I was going to get the rub of it with a late safety car. I just needed that safety car to go another 5 laps and come out another 5 laps, and I think it would have worked a treat. But anyway, it is what it is. I'll take second. plus 1 on starting position, good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, obviously we're talking about a little bit about the way these strategies with the 2 compulsory pit stops are playing themselves. You just sort of already mentioned there, you know, it's giving you the flexibility. If things don't start off the way you want, you can just flip the strategy and do something different, and then it can work out in your favour. So you're definitely seeing, we're starting to see these strategies play out now. So you're definitely feeling there's a benefit in being able to play around with it a bit more.
Yeah, I think so. It definitely makes it more interesting, and you know, these cars are really good to drive after new set of tyres, so it makes it fun for the drivers as well, in that you get kind of 2 cracks at setting a personal best during the race, and it certainly turns the strategy up. You know, the other thing I've kind of enjoyed is just trying to suss out each week to see, you know, how the set handles extra fuel. You know, last week, I think the set handled extra fuel quite well, so you could go quite long in the first stint as opposed to splitting the race, where this week you kind of wanted to stay at the setup had quite a narrow setup window, so you were kind of limited to that 30 to, I guess, 50 litres of fuel, but that's still, you know, good 10 seconds in the pits, and it gives you a good opportunity to try under or overcut someone around with where the lap cars are on the track, and you know, a little hallelujah safety car thrown in at the end always makes it interesting.
Yeah, very good. We head to Long Beach. Long Beach. No, we just came at Long Beach. We head to Laguna Seca for the next round. Do you like the track? Any thoughts heading into that one?
It's a pretty cool track. I think I still get haunted by the memories of iRacing when it first launched, when we were throwing what's the old Solstice and MX-5s around Laguna Seca, because there were only about 5 or 6 tracks of that in Lime Rock. I don't know if I've actually ever driven the supercar around there, but I can't imagine it's going to be boring. It's kind of one of those old school ruthless tracks where a mistake generally puts you in the sand and into the wall. So I think it'll be great fun. You know, the corkscrew is going to be interesting. That left-hander prior to running up the hill before the corkscrew is going to be pretty good. And big stop into turn 1 is going to be a passing opportunity. So yeah, I think it'll be great fun.
Awesome. Before we let you go, you want to thank for getting it done tonight?
Yeah, just the usual, just my team DPR, my sponsor here in New Zealand, Man and Racing Products. clearly you guys for clearly having a bit of fun that I'm going to have to go back and listen to in the broadcast before I jumped in here. And yeah, just everyone involved with the league. Another good fun Thursday night.
Nah, we don't have fun up in here. It's just
No.
Scott throwing me under the bus every night.
time.
So every time. So yeah, it's definitely not fun.
Yeah, no difference every other night, right?
No, not at all.
Mate, no big sense next week. Don't just lob it up the inside, yeah?
Oh my god, he went
You've heard
there.
that one. You've heard that one how many times by now? Thanks very much, Darren. Always a pleasure to chat to you, my brother.
Cheers, boys. Have fun.
I guess we'll hand over Scott to talk to our winner, Michael Taliancic.
And it's going to be Mr. One-Handed Bandit, Michael Taliancic himself. It's been a while since you've been One-Handed Bandit, but anyway, a throwback to the past, mate. A win at the streets of Long Beach. It's always tough when you come to Long Beach. How was the race there tonight?
It was long at Long Beach. Yeah, it was. I was in the right position after the start. Getting Ken, that was sort of huge because it is very hard to pass around this track, and that sort of let me dictate a little bit how the race went. But I admire both Ken and Darren for picking different strategies at the end there when I went in for my second stop. But I still managed to come out in front at the safety car, so that sort of set the tone. It was all up to them to get the pass, not so much pressure on me.
Just keep it smooth, drive it off the corners nice and cleanly, mate. It's the walls are always close around. It's just give us a sense of what it's like to be in the car, because again, we've got to the stage here. You know, Mez and I can both drive different things, but these supercars, it's just an unwieldy beast. They're just something completely and utterly different. And there's a street circuit on every single calendar that we have here in Vets, and it's difficult, it's tricky. And the key thing around here is, unlike Bathurst, you know, where you've got that big long straight, there's really a half breath that you get down the front straight. It is just constant loading around here.
Oh, it's definitely hard work around here. There's very little breaks. Like trying to get in and change fuel numbers and stuff like that, you have very little time to do it. And unlike Bathurst, where you have the like Conrod and long gearing, you've got a bit of time to like play around with a keyboard or something like that. You just, yeah, like you say, it is very hard to breathe. But being fast around this track, you have to use like every inch of the track. I think I had about 8 0x contacts with the wall in that race, and like I thought I was actually being a bit calm, like Gops, and on the weekend I think I had about 16 0x's just skimming the wall. So like you have to use every inch of the track if you want to be fast, and like both Darren and Ken were really fast tonight, so like if I wasn't giving it my all, I'm sure they would have put the pressure on and got the pass easy.
Mate, in terms of things, 3 wins now on the season thus far. It has been 50-50 in terms of the wins. You're either winning or, you know, you've been in a podium just about each and every week as well. It seems to be the most successful season that you've strung together, certainly in a good while. You look confident in the car. And is it something to do with that new partnership in the air? Is it sometimes just that change of scenery, that little bit of a breath of fresh air of the guys that are around you? You know, is that helping?
That made a massive difference. Working with Simon now at Altus, I now have the opportunity to just focus more on racing. Like, I'm still a manager of the guys with Altus Australia. However, I don't have to deal with any of the sponsorship side or money or anything like that. So that took a lot of stress off my shoulders, because it wasn't something I was particularly good at either. And now my job is more to make sure the guys get results. And the best way I do that is make sure I'm fast. The faster I am, the better I am at setting up cars, everything like that, the better I perform as well. So that's sort of like win-win for the team. The better I'm driving, and I think it's starting to show a bit in Vets and other series as well, that I'm slowly starting to find some form that I had a few years ago that I seem to have lost.
In terms of things for you, you know, you've already mentioned just less responsibility within the team. It's I think for each and every driver, they go through a phase, and whether it's sim racing, whether it's esports, no matter what, you want to go through that phase. You pick up a few different bits and pieces of responsibility, and you learn those lessons. What are the lessons that you're going to look back on of managing a team? How has that changed your approach to the mental approach to driving a car. The actual driving in the car, obviously, it doesn't change all that much. It just takes that little bit of time off. But mentally, you would say now, as somebody who has managed a team, I'm driving the car differently because I'm thinking about the sponsors. I'm thinking about the reputational effects of everything that goes on.
It definitely makes me think a lot more about sponsorship and how I'm representing the sponsors while I'm racing. I probably suffer a little bit of road rage, which sometimes come out in the sim, and I think, yeah, that responsibility helps me race a bit calmer. Like, I don't know, I had a little bit of a reputation when I first started in the sim for getting into accidents and stuff like that, and I didn't typically do anything on purpose. It was just when you see a bit of red mist, you just don't drive as clearly and don't make as good a judgment calls. And yeah, I think it has helped in that aspect, but mostly the biggest thing I've come away from that is I'm not managing another team again. Like, it's just too much work. It's rewarding in its own way, but not as much as the effort you have to put in.
Mate, that's really, really good insight into you and the team around you guys, and obviously wish you all the best with that partnership, mate. Tell us a little bit more about it. Tell us and thank the guys that make it possible for the new Altus Australia partnership for you.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to thank everyone at Altus Australia. I'd like to thank VRS as well as the Altus engineering department that goes through VRS, as well as Racetech, and thanks to Logitech G. Thank you guys as well.
Mate, thank you very much for joining us, and I really appreciate that window actually into team management and whatnot. It's always interesting to learn a little bit more about everyone that participates in sim racing, mate. So I really appreciate those comments.
Cheers, guys.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap us up here. It's a nice early finish from the streets of Long Beach. Oof, all the drivers will be wiping the sweat off, calming it down a little bit. Next week, we'll be staying within America. We'll be staying within a twisty-turny circuit. This time, however, they're going to take the walls back probably about 20 or 30 feet or so. It's Laguna Seca. It's got the corkscrew, and who could ever forget that famous combination? Maybe it's also going to be the rainy curve, or perhaps even Fittipaldi down in turn number one. It's an iconic circuit in terms of American racing. I still remember the days of MotoGP racing from America taking place here. That'll be greeting you next Thursday night from 8:35 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. It's been an honour to bring you the V8 Veterans Racing and another serving of the V8 Veterans Vindaloo. Any final notes before we sign off for the evening, Maz?
No, fantastic night of racing. Yeah, interesting to see how we go at Laguna Seca. I don't think I've seen a V8 race there in a while, so yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they tackle it and who's going to have the pace come Laguna Seca. Well, next week we bring you the drivers as they attempt to curry the favour of the famous corkscrew. This has been V8 Veterans for SimSpeed. We'll see you again next Thursday night.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.